Hello, everybody. The drizzle fell softly like tears from a gloomy sky. In the cold night, the faint glow of street lights illuminated a narrow street where a tall figure stood silently before TU DIEP's gate. James, once a symbol of power and prestige, now carried only a sincere heart and deep, resolute eyes. He had forsaken everything. His position as CEO, his family's business empire, to choose to Diep, the woman who had captured his soul from their very first meeting. TU, wrapped in a thin sweater, opened the door and froze at the sight of James standing there. His white shirt clung to his body, soaked through by the rain, his hair disheveled under the downpour. Without a word, he stepped forward and enveloped her in a tight embrace, as if afraid she might vanish. His voice, hoarse from the cold, was gentle as a vow whispered in her ear. "I've left the company to die up. I have nothing left but you." TU DIEP was stunned, her body stiffening as if frozen. She pushed him away, her eyes brimming with worry and panic. "James, what are you saying? You can't do this. The company is your family's legacy, your future." James gave a faint smile, his gaze warm like a fire piercing the winter night. He reached out, brushing her cheek lightly, his voice low but unwavering. "I told you if I had to choose between you and my family, I'd choose you without hesitation to die up." Shook her head, tears streaming down her face, mingling with the cold rain. She knew how deeply James loved her, but she, an ordinary girl with a simple life, couldn't let him sacrifice his entire world for her. "James, are you insane? You're the heir, the CEO who could reshape the market, and I'm just an ordinary girl. How can you give up everything for me?" James gripped her shoulders, his eyes blazing as if to etch her image into his soul. "To Deep, don't you understand? To me, you are everything. Without you, fame, power, wealth, they mean nothing." His words stabbed at her heart. She trembled, placing her hands on his face, feeling the faint warmth of his rain-chilled skin. Her eyes were filled with anguish. "James, go back. Don't defy your father because of me. I'm not worth losing everything for." James smiled, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of pain. He took her hand, squeezing it tightly, as if it were his last lifeline to the world. "I've already faced him, and I have no regrets. But if you don't accept me, I'll truly have nothing left." TU DIEP sobbed, her love for James as deep as his for her. But she couldn't bear the thought of him sacrificing his future. In the cold, rainy night, they held each other tightly, as if merging to withstand the storm of fate. Their love had weathered many trials, but would it be strong enough to face the world? The next morning, James stepped into the family mansion, where the air felt as cold as his resolve. His father, William, a man of formidable authority with piercing eyes, awaited him in the study. The room, lined with antique paintings and towering bookshelves, seemed to amplify the weight on James's shoulders. William's gaze was devoid of warmth as he looked at his son. "So you finally come to your senses? Or are you still caught in your reckless folly?" His voice was deep, laced with commanding power. James stood tall, his eyes unflinching. "I'm not here to abandon TU DIEP. I'm here to take back the company." William let out a scornful laugh, setting his teacup down on the ebony table with a sharp clink that echoed in the silent room. "Take it back, you think? A single sentence will make me hand over your position. James, you betrayed this family for a girl." James clenched his fist, suppressing a surge of anger. His voice was steely. "You can strip me of my inheritance, but I still hold shares and influence in the company. I will fight to reclaim what's mine." William studied his son, a flicker of surprise crossing
At
James's
James's
unwavering resolve. He curled his lips into a cold smile, his eyes sharp as a blade. "Very well, James. I'll give you a chance in the next 3 months. If you can raise enough capital on your own to revive the stalled project, the one that you let fail, I'll hand the company's reins back to you." James didn't hesitate, his voice resolute. "I accept." William's smile turned icy, his eyes sharp as a blade. But if you fail, you'll leave the business world forever. And you'll cut all ties with that girl. Do you dare take that bet? James met his father's gaze, his eyes burning with determination. I won't lose. That evening, James drove through the city's glowing streets to TU DIEP's house. When she opened the door, he pulled her into his arms, as if shedding the weight of the day. His voice was firm, though tinged with exhaustion. To die up, I won't let you go. Not ever. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with worry. James recounted his father's harsh conditions, each detail cutting into her heart like a knife. To die up bit her lip, her heart heavy with dread. What if you can't do it, James? What if you lose everything? James smiled, his eyes alight with an unyielding fire. I'll do it for you, for our love. I can't let you live in fear. TU gripped his hand tightly, tears rolling down her cheeks. She knew the immense burden he carried, but she also believed in his strength. Then I'll stand by you, James. No matter what happens, we'll face it together. James leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead, whispering, we'll fight together, a rival in the shadows. The real battle had begun. With nothing but his resolve, James threw himself into raising capital to save the project, a once proud venture of the company, now teetering on the brink of failure. He reached out to old partners, those who had once admired his talent. But news of his father's disownment had spread, making many hesitant, wary of betting on a man in such a precarious position. One late evening, James sat alone in a familiar cafe, its warm golden light unable to dispel his solitude. Spread before him were stacks of documents, financial charts and code, unforgiving numbers. He needed an investor. But who would dare back someone sidelined by their own family just then? A deep voice cut through his thoughts. Looks like you're in a tough spot, James. James looked up to see Ming, a young ambitious CEO who had once confessed his feelings for TU DIEP. Ming, with a confident smile and calculating eyes, pulled up a chair and sat across from him. I hear your father's cut off all support. What's your next move? Ming asked, his tone a mix of concern and provocation. James took a sip of his coffee, his gaze steady on Ming. I'll stand on my own. I don't need his help, Ming smirked, leaning forward with a glint in his eye, like a predator sizing up its prey. I have a proposition, James. I'll invest in your project with enough capital to save it all. But I have one condition. James's brow furrowed, a sense of unease arising within him. What condition? Ming spoke slowly, each word sharp and deliberate. I want a fair chance to pursue. TU DIEP. The air in the cafe seemed to freeze. James's fist clenched under the table, his eyes flashing with cold fury. Ming was testing his limits, not just in business, but in love. You think I'd agree to that? He growled, struggling to keep his anger in check. Ming shrugged, his smile unshaken, leaning forward with a glint in his eye, like a predator sizing up its prey. If you're confident enough in your love, this shouldn't be a problem, right? Or are you afraid of losing? James locked eyes with Ming, a storm raging within him. Refusing Ming meant risking the project's failure, possibly losing the company entirely. But agreeing meant putting his love for TU DIEP on the line. After a tense silence, he replied coldly, fine, you can try, but don't regret it when you fail. Ming laughed, extending his hand as if sealing a casual deal. Pleasure doing business, James. James shook Ming's hand, but his heart knew this was no ordinary transaction. It was a battle to protect what he held most dear. TU DIEP remained unaware of this deal. She stood by James tirelessly, helping him analyze markets and seek opportunities. But as Ming began to approach her with sweet words and calculated gestures, would her heart remain steadfast? Could James reclaim the company while keeping the heart of the woman he loved? From a cunning rival, the war between love and career had entered its fiercest phase. James stood at a crossroads, with the empire he must reclaim on one side and the love of his life on the other. Would he triumph over all or lose everything? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain in James's heart. He would never give up on TU DIEP, no matter the cost.